Yes, guys, welcome back to the Cannon Podcast. First things first, apologies for the delay. We were meant to come out on Monday, but I was at the Euros final and, traveling back from Germany. It wasn't quite easy, but look, it didn't quite come home. I'm back home now and I'm joined by a man like George himself. George, how you doing, bro?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. I mean, something to maybe share with the viewers and everything. You had a birthday going on,
Yeah, yeah.
a little
Listen,
birthday celebration.
it flew by. It flew by. Do you know what the weird thing about the birthday was, right? So
Mm.
my cousins had planned like a surprise party for me. And my flight was in the morning of the game, so I had to fly at 7. So Heathrow's near my house, so it wasn't too far. But like by 12, I got like a ring outside my door as my cousins were out there. So I had to go celebrate my birthday in the morning till like 2, 3 a.m. Did get a little bit peppered, and then I had to catch a flight. And I hadn't packed quite yet either, so it was very busy and everything just flew by. Honestly, I didn't process half of it because I didn't get any sleep,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
it was quite the experience. Look, I know it didn't quite come home, but the game itself was quite interesting to watch. I'm not sure your own thoughts on it, but yeah, the Euros is over, and Southgate's gone as well, so a lot to break down.
I mean, it had to happen for me personally. I just don't think that you guys can progress as a nation until you guys look at the back of, Southgate and, his decision making. It's not, I mean, maybe I just don't have that, that relationship that you guys have with it. But for me, it was quite clear for a while that the way that he was using the squad and then the way that he was platforming certain players and unable to make decisions, it just felt like a manager at least that didn't know where he wanted to go. And I think it was a
Hmm.
manager that, at the very least, gave you guys, an environment. And we've talked about it in previous pods, but you almost, with Southgate, all the pros are off the pitch. As soon as you start analyzing stuff on the pitch, you don't start to attribute very many pros with Southgate. And that for me is a major problem for, I think, a team that's at least steadied into one of the
Yep.
best talent pools in the world. I think when you've got talent like that, and you're talking internationals, right? Like, you're talking moments here. You're talking about players that are able to capitalize and use their talent, and not over the course of maybe a season where consistency is valued, where you can maybe get into other issues within a team. There's bigger dynamics. But I think when you talk about tournaments and successful tournaments and teams that have had successful eras, you're talking about the best players in the world, and you're talking typically about the most talented squad, and at least somebody that's able to um, defensively organize your team. And
Hmm.
I mean, ultimately, you guys, even in that match, like, you had moments, but again, Southgate's reluctance to add proper width, Southgate's reluctance to, platform uh, not just Phil Foden, but, Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane specifically, especially Harry Kane, in terms of your ability to change the game. You had the players to do it. You didn't have the manager that was effective at doing it at the right times. And
Hmm.
so you suffered for it. And you suffered pretty much all tournament. And you suffered, I'd arguably say, pretty much the whole Euros campaign, if you really want to get into it. But
Yeah,
um, so, yeah, disappointing. Tight game, though. A lot tighter
very
than
tight, very tight.
people thought. And again, I think that was at the expense of Southgate, not because Southgate got you. But where do you stand as, like, an Englishman in terms of, he's, at the end of the day, got you to X amount of finals, X amount of
Yeah,
semifinals? That's
yeah.
the argument that I hear quite a bit.
Hmm. It's a weird win because before Southgate, pre-Southgate, we had Roy Hodgson for a while. We even had that very brief stint of Sam Allardyce. It wasn't promising. We'd barely get past the last 16, and there wasn't any like idea of going and winning the Euros, winning the World Cup. With Southgate at the helm, the first one was a surprise. It was the 2018 World Cup, and we got all the way to the semis. And look, I think he's the first English manager of all time to get to back-to-back finals, which is honestly insane. The only issue was not an issue, but I think the thing that went in his side is each time we made it to the final, the run's been in his it's in his favor and the side of the group and the side of the knockout stages. So you look at the teams that we beat to get to the finals this time. Was it Slovakia or Slovenia? I'm pretty sure it was Slovakia. Switzerland as well. Teams that we expect to be beating, and even in the semi-finals, that wasn't a game that I'd say we were not the favourites with the quality that we have. The best player in La Liga, the top scorer in the Bundesliga. The PFA Player of the Year in Phil Foden as well. The likes of Bukayo Saka and co. Declan Rice as well. We should have beaten Netherlands with the quality that we have. So it's weird because we've made the finals back to back, but how many teams have we beaten against the odds? You know, you go back to the 2021 Euros and Germany. Is that the Germany of 10 years ago? Not quite. We look at Spain's went to the final. They beat Germany in their home nation. They beat France as well, and they beat England in the final. So that for me was a sign of a top quality team versus a side that's been a bit fortunate and they've taken the opportunity, which of course you have to give credit to. But the reality is, Spain were the best team in the tournament, and with the quality that we have, we should have been in that conversation. In terms of the players that we have and the ability we have in the squad. I just feel like we were being held back tactically, and now it's an idea of who's next. But you're right for sure. I think a lot of fans realise that he's given us a platform, he's given us belief again, but he isn't the man to get us over the line, and that's where a lot of fans are comfortable with the idea of replacing him, and he's obviously gone now.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that you guys have gone to a point where the England FA have done a brilliant job about rerouting your entire infrastructure. I mean, the U21s with Lee Carlisle has done a brilliant job. I mean, in fact, people are touting him to be perhaps an interim
Mm-hmm.
manager to come in. I mean, he's done a brilliant job in terms of producing an effective style of play that people would be attracted to, at least. But again, you've done a brilliant job about all throughout your ranks garnering talent. And so what was maybe the case 5 years ago, or I can't remember, when did Southgate come? Was it 5 years ago?
8 years ago, I'm pretty sure.
Um,
8 years
so
ago, yeah.
so 8 years ago, there was an argument when Southgate came in that there was a lack of culture, there was a lack of effective talent production, and there was a slowing in terms of England's ability to compete on the world stage, especially from a
Mm-hmm.
talent perspective all throughout their age groups, right? And I mean, you guys did a brilliant job, and he was a big part of that cultural revolution. But then, in terms of going the next step to win, I mean, you guys haven't won a major tournament in what, 100 years? If that's the case, I mean,
No, no, it's not
or
100 years. I think
no,
it's like
I,
58 or something. Like,
58 for what, the worlds, but
let's just say 60. The World Cup was in 1966.
right.
So,
So from a World
not
Cup
not quite
perspective,
100 just yet. We're not that old.
no, but from a Euros perspective, when's the last time you guys won the Euros?
I don't think we ever won the Euros. That's correct. We never won the Euros.
Yeah, so in terms of your international pedigree, it's non-existent.
Yeah.
And not that Canada's is either, by the way. It's just when you're trying to take
We
the
got
next
Copa
step.
America in there.
Yeah. Although, hey, Jesse March
The
might have might
CONCACAF
have
Cup.
something for us, man. We did pretty
Okay,
good in the
okay.
Copa, but yeah, like I do see a lot of similarities in terms of, for me, an effective rebuild starts with laying the infrastructure, laying the culture, and the non-negotiables right. That's the first step.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next step is making sure to recruit a talent pool that's able to sustain a certain level of competitive edge, which you've got to now. You've reached, back-to-back finals, and from a Euros perspective, I think in the Euro Cup, you should expect yourselves to go far, at least the semis, or you'll be one of the favorites to at least go there. So
Mm-hmm.
you've raised the level to that sense. Now, to get you over the line, you need to have a coach that I think is less about having a tactically aware coach, but maybe more of a balancer. And not this person, but somebody in the mold of a Carlo Ancelotti, somebody that is able to understand balance quite well, profiles and able to manage superstars, because you do have a superstar squad. Right now, what you do is you lack balance. And not to get into like the whole discussion about the Bukayo Saka being right point, but I mean, a major reason why people are up in arms about moving your best players around, not understanding things, is that you don't have a coach who has settled an 11 that is balanced, that provides you with a really good attack on both sides, that provides you with defensive solidity, that allows you to control, moments in a game. And you've been doing it on talent alone for far too long. So you need somebody that's able to put that stuff together to provide something for your boys to do what their talent deserves. And I mean, it would be a shame, objectively, to look at this England generation and not see a
Yeah.
return to silverware at least once,
Mm-hmm.
let alone the potential to rival and go back to back in certain tournaments.
Of course, of course. And I think that's the thing is, you got the World Cup in 2026, but I'm pretty sure the next Euros is a home Euros for England. So there's a lot of pressure. I've got to back-to-back finals. Can you get to another final? Can you get a win this time round? Who's the manager going to be? Is there like a specific guy that stands out to you? Go, he needs to be the next English coach. I stand that candidate. There's a lot of rumours right now. You talked about, the under-21 coach coming up as a potential option and the footballer he's played, but also rumours of Thomas Tuchel is available, who'd be happy to take the job. I know Jose's right now. I think he's in Turkey, but some people have put his name forwards. I put the Arsene Wenger's name forward as well, just as a an idea. Let me land. And then I think you've also got some rumours that they might wait for Pep to leave Man City and to offer him the job. I mean, imagine Pep Guardiola as a manager of England. I mean, that'd be quite crazy, wouldn't it?
No, I mean, those are superstars. I mean, would you like the best manager in the world to manage
I mean, that's kind of what we need at this point,
internationals?
don't we?
And like, sure, yeah. I mean, beyond those shouts, I don't think Thomas Tuchel is a bad option if he is supposedly to go into national management. But look,
Yeah,
I
Jurgen Klopp's available.
yeah, I mean, look, there's some superstar coaches. I do personally believe that in terms of a national team, you should at least try to get a nationality comparison. I've just got
Yeah, yep.
and I actually don't think there's much logic rooted in that because ideally you just choose the best man for the job. That should be
Hmm.
the marker. But I actually think Eddie Howe would do a brilliant job. I think Newcastle's
Yeah,
project, the way that he's done is incredible. He's done great work with Bournemouth. He would be able to really unify that integration between U21s up into the final and into the first team rather, and then also produce a style of play that's attractive. And he is a coach that does really well with what he's given in general. And I don't know if he's done enough to maybe take the next step for Newcastle. Like Newcastle might be at a crossroads for me in terms of deciding what Eddie Howe is able to do and provide for them in terms of doing a great job with the squad building, doing a great job with creating a team, but have they gone the next step to win? That would be maybe my only realistic question with Eddie Howe if he's capable of it. But he's certainly capable of balancing a squad. He's certainly capable of integrating youth, and he's certainly capable of providing an attractive style of play. So, and he's English. So, I mean, for me, it
yeah,
ticks quite a
yeah.
lot of the soft factors when deciding a coach.
Hmm. Yeah, I think in terms of the coach itself, it most likely is to be someone who's available right now. Or,
Yeah,
as you said, you can go the under 21 route, wait to the end of the season and see who leaves now. Because I doubt Eddie Howe would want to leave Newcastle,
no,
this season, maybe in the future. And, the World Cup is not around the corner, technically speaking. But, having with Southgate gone, and I think the assistant coach as well, what's his name? Steve Holland gone as well. It does open up a space for a certain Arsenal player to enter the frame again in Ben White. And look, I don't want to hear it because we've heard it in the past of White doesn't want to play for his country. We've seen his interview after getting called up for Euro 2021. He was nearly in tears, he said. He couldn't quite believe it. So he wants to play for his country. It's a matter of personal disagreements which got underway. But now that that person is no longer there, could Ben White be England's future starting right back when you've got Trent Alexander-Arnold and you've got Kyle Walker, who had quite in my eyes, a very poor tournament. But despite making the team in the tournament on UEFA side of things, you've got Reece James as well and a few other options there. Do you reckon Ben White has a chance to go and make himself the starter for England now?
more than a chance. He was the best right back in the Premier League last season on the whole. So, I mean, I think talking about chemistry, you're talking about the idea of that entire side with, Declan Rice playing as well. Look, ideally for
Also
me,
takeover.
yeah, for sure. I mean, look, you look at John Stones as well. He's not got long left. I don't even know if he's considerably guaranteed for the World Cup squad that's coming up in 2026. To be honest with you, I thought he was pretty poor in the tournament personally, and I mean, you might be looking for something else moving forward. But I mean, you look at people like Levi Colwell, Jared Braithwaite. You look at Ben White, could be a really important cornerstone to what they're doing in terms of a back three. And I mean, look, if you've got Trent, I think the big discussion is going to be Trent and Reece James. Those are your
Yeah,
superstar England
yeah.
right backs in terms of very different profiles. Ben's superpower is how versatile he is. So even if he lines up in a right center back role, he can do the Arsenal thing where, of course, he's wide in a three that can bomb on, and you can still have Trent, who is right back on paper, but moves into midfield. Like I can very much see that working really well with Declan as an anchor, for example. And then you can maybe have, I don't know, Jared Braithwaite, a Levi Colwell. Like look at a back three of Levi Colwell, Jared Braithwaite, Ben White. And then you've got basically a pivot of Declan Rice and Trent Alexander-Arnold. You're starting to say, tasty. And then, you're looking up ahead and, there's, Jude Bellingham, of course, has got talent. And I mean, I think you're probably looking for a really superstar left wing, but you've got so much talent at
Hmm.
the striker position as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Not coming and recruiting Marcus Rashford was again the
I mean,
craziest thing. But you're starting to see a,
yeah,
a really strong team, like incredibly
yeah.
strong.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd say in terms of strikers, obviously Harry Kane, even though he won the Golden Boot, wasn't his best tournament. He is getting to the age now where I think the next World Cup and the Euros past that he will maybe
It's a big
get past his
decision.
prime. Yeah, and then the question is there really any young English strikers coming through that could take his place? And he is the captain of the country. I think is he the record goal scorer now, or is he just below Wayne Rooney? He might
He's
be.
not hit Wayne Rooney's record.
I'm not quite sure.
But look, I
Maybe he
mean,
has. Maybe the comments will let us know for sure. But that was my main thing is looking up in terms of because a lot of our players are very young. Like Saka's what 22, 23, Foden's 24 as well. I think my major concern or major thing for the next manager is you have to pick which talents that you want to platform, and it can't be everyone because everything won't work again. We've seen it with this entire tournament. The idea of playing Foden out of position and having the likes of Palmer off the bench, it wasn't working. You know, you could see certain profiles not working together, not being platformed. Declan Rice wasn't his best in the final either, and you could see that he was not, given the right help around him as well. So I think the next manager needs to think of who's the platform, who's the ones that I want to believe in the most, and take forwards to
Look,
go and
I
win
don't want to
something.
be rude, and I'm not just being biased because of an Arsenal player, but let's have it right about who should be platformed. Bukayo Saka is England's best player, has been England's best player for quite a while. He is somebody that you do platform. Then you go down the list. I mean, Declan Rice. He is somebody that's performed brilliantly in an England shirt. You platform that talent. In terms of everybody else, I think you could absolutely make an argument Jude Bellingham, the way
Of
that
course.
he's also performed in an England shirt. It's not just been based off the laurels of what he's done at Madrid. I mean, he has done some pretty big moments for England in general. So you can make an argument that he is someone that you need to platform. But beyond that, mate, like you need to start making complement partnerships for these players. So who partners Declan Rice? Are we talking about, Warden to come in or a Phil Foden that operates in the Martin Odegaard role? Not in the role that he was doing it with England, but somebody that could come deep, help with build up a little bit more, and perform like Martin Odegaard as more of a kind of middle third eight as opposed to the final third. Is that what you want? Or would you like Trent, another generational talent who I would argue you must platform? Let him do his work from right back to move into midfield to have that pivot. Let that pivot really work and flourish. But then provide a defensive base that's able to run and give these guys options, right? So there's a lot of questions, but you got to pick your players to platform. You've got to do that smartly, and whoever is the next England coach must do it because it'll decide their success in the job long term.
Yeah, no, it definitely will. I think talking about platforming, I want to quickly have a little word on Declan Rice and that final
Mm-hmm.
performance because there's a lot of talk about him being poor and him not passing forwards enough. What do you make of his entire tournament in general? Do you think Rice performed his abilities? And if not, why do you think that was? Is it down to the player himself and his own qualities, or is it how he's platformed personally?
I think you're as good as your last game. And because Declan was average in his last game, that's been the narrative of the tournament. If you actually look at the stats, I mean, he's had better
Yeah,
stats than
yeah.
Rodri in pretty much most metrics. So if you really want to get nitty gritty, I thought he had a fine tournament. I think was he
Hmm.
as energetic? I think he lost a little bit of energy the longer the tournament went on, but he was one of England's best players. So you're looking at it asking me like, how did he do? I thought he was brilliant. I thought he was his typical self. Was he bombastic? Was he stand out the page? No, I don't think so. I think there was a level that he could have done a little bit more. But in terms of doing all the right things, one of the very few players to actually give England a platform to play was Declan. So, best of a bad bunch, sure. I could probably agree with that. But still the best of the bunch, and
Yeah, yeah.
so that's kind of where I stood with Declan. And I think I, Arsenal have a similar debate, mate, in terms of England, in terms of Arsenal. If you really want to get into it, I mean, this whole idea and transitioning maybe into Arsenal's transfer business in terms of central midfield, where do we go from here? England are asking the same questions that Arsenal are asking. You're looking at a world class
Hmm.
player, and there's debate, no matter how you slice it, between a six and an eight, and where you want that power, where you want that player, and how do you
Hmm.
best use it. I mean, Mainu offered maybe a glimpse into what a Martin Zubimendi type of profile could work with Declan Rice. There's definitely some interesting passing combinations that I saw there, but I wouldn't describe what I saw from Mainu with Declan as my ideal partnership. And I'll even make the bold claim: I don't think we've seen it because, in theory, I don't think I've seen a really fit Thomas Partey with Declan Rice, which I, on
Hmm.
paper, would say, in theory, is my favorite midfield partnership for him. Where Declan is not confined to either a sole anchor or a box to box role. He needs to be part of a pivot partnership for me, and you need to give him the freedom to run. But he also
Yeah.
shouldn't be somebody to be an eight who's receiving high up the pitch, because as soon as you put him in a box to box eight role, that's what you're asking of him, mate. Even in Arsenal,
Hmm.
and I don't think that's where he's best. He is best with
Mm.
the game in front of him. He is best where he's able free to move. He's best when he's able to choose his moments when to burst through midfield. As soon as you start restricting that and you don't give Declan the opportunity to see the game in front of him, then he's going to not be as effective. And you best do that with a partner. Um, so I'm looking at a facilitator. I'm looking at him more as an anchor, generally speaking. And I don't know how
Yeah.
you feel, whether it's
No, I
England
definitely
or
agree. I
whatnot.
definitely agree.
But I mean, you could
No, I
talk about
definitely agree.
Adam
Yeah.
Warden, who also has maybe a similar profile comparison to a certain Mikel Merino.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you can transition that form if you want to. But look, I agree quickly on Declan Rice itself. I think six is his future for sure, and it depends on us at certain game sets. But the ability for him to play as an eight, I think is amazing. In certain game states, it's perfect to use that there. But it doesn't mean he's going to be having one role the entire season. But let's talk Mikel Merino. Who we've obviously done a scouting report, which the viewers can find on Patreon, but also on YouTube as well. We've got one there as well, available for free as well. But alongside Mikel Moreno's links, I saw the stat that he's won the most duels out of any midfielder or any player last year in Europe. And it looks like he could be available. He's just won the Euros with Spain as well. He's at a good age, I think 27, 28 years of age. He's got a little bit of Premier League experience, albeit not amazing, at Newcastle United. Talk to me about the profile, George. Do you feel like he's a player or an opportunity that Arsenal, can take this summer, and will he improve our squad and team in the foreseeable future?
I think Mikel Merino is going to be one of those pieces of business that works out to be the Trossard of the midfield
Yeah,
position.
yeah.
Somebody that comes in absolutely as depth, somebody that can
Raises the
work with
floor.
a lot of different people. It raises the floor, but also will challenge for a first team spot by being so
Yeah.
bloody consistent. But that will
Hmm.
be debated in terms of the starting 11. Look, he is a player that isn't flashy, but I think solves so many little small holes in the team that you look at and
Hmm.
says that's the glue of the team. In isolation, none of his skills are superstar, except for the aerial ability, which is a freakish ability. That's the best in Europe. He's got like the best aerial duel numbers in the world. Um, he's a
He
busy
scored ahead of the
player.
Euros as well.
Yeah, yeah, he did exactly, and it helps when you've got Arsenal set piece
Set
FC,
pieces.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
I joke, but there's just a lot of things that make sense to me about the deal. Okay,
Hmm.
number one that I want to talk about is experience. Arsenal have a very young midfield, and bar Jorginho and Partey, who I mean are both with a year left on their contract, you're talking about a midfield that in a year is going to have nobody over the age of 25. That's a problem for me. Like I think you need to have a good mix, and so coming in at 28 years of age, you could very much offer quite a bit of the Trossard level of experience and moments in a team. Then you start to look at what is his ability out of possession. He's got brilliant second ball collection. He's got brilliant. I think he's topped Europe top five leagues in total duels as well. So it's
Yeah,
somebody
most
that
duels won.
fits our out of possession work, right? And one thing that I really like is people are comparing him to Granit Xhaka, and the one thing that I like about that comparison rather is the movement. He's got the Shaka running. You know how smart Shaka was in terms of when to fill spaces? That's what
Hmm.
was key. It wasn't that Shaka was some incredible athlete that was able to really run long over longer distances or was super sharp in the first 5 yards. I mean, his stamina was insane. It's incredible. But Granit Xhaka's special sauce is his intelligence, when to underlap, when to go wide. And Moreno has that. He's got that facilitative attitude to the team that I think is really important because you've got a midfield right now in terms of Martin Odegaard, who's got your ball dominant personality, right? Sets the tempo
Hmm.
for Arsenal. Declan sets the heart of the team. He sets the out of possession work in the team. But when you're looking at a left hand side that's lacked a little bit of support, that's lacked a little bit of somebody that's willing to go wide, and of course he's left
Yep.
footed. So that overlap or even underlap to that side still carries threat because it's on a strong foot. So it's something for me that I look at from a player, by the way, who's really efficient in transition. Like his decision making, he never um, leaves the ball with himself or on his foot for longer than 30 seconds. It's constantly receive, look up, find the best option, play. And we could use a bit of that in transition. I think
Yeah.
that's something that has really struggled for Arsenal. And if you're talking about the mid block problem in general, getting the ball to your superstars quick, being able to effectively find them in quicker 1v1s as well as being able to potentially be a target for half space crossing. I think I've mentioned this goal before, but remember our goal scored against City when Tomiyasu was in that left eight spot and
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
works off Kai Havertz you can totally see a situation with Mikel Merino, especially his 6'2" and his aerial numbers, to be an outlet for David Raya and others
Mhm.
in terms of even Martin Odegaard or Bukayo Saka at
Yeah,
that post. So I really like the deal, and it's smart made. It's 25 million pounds. It's not an
yeah,
expensive
that's
deal.
the key part.
Yeah, to end on it, jack of all trades, master of none, except for maybe the aerial ability. It is elite. Um, in terms of the deal, 25 million pounds, 6'8", 28 years of age, just finished winning the Euros, could offer quite a bit in terms of raising the floor and be the Trossard of
Yeah.
midfielder signings for us.
It's completely true, and I say it because you look at all the things you've just listed that he can improve our squad and improve so much. Is that worth 25 million euros? And that's 100% yes. And that's why for me it's a deal that makes a lot of sense to make happen as soon as possible as well, because it's also a available deal as well. And that's the key part is a lot of our signings this summer have been players that either are available or we can go and make available. Because there's a lot of players that fans have in their minds that they love to sign Isak, they love to sign
Mm-hmm.
Rafael Leao. These players aren't available. And to make them available, it takes a long time, maybe even past one summer. You talk about Declan Rice last year, he was available because it became evident mid-season that he was going to leave at the end of the year. And unless the likes of Leao and Co have an agreement with their clubs, they ain't going to leave. And so for us, for this window, it's about signing players that will give them the extra 5% we need, because that's all we need right now. 89 points last year, most ever goals scored, and so many other stats there on top of that. All we need now is a fine margin, and Miguel Moreno could help that for sure. We talked about all he can do, and especially for that price tag, the deal makes sense. And one thing we're doing for sure this year is we're selling players for sure. Maybe not as a sell first to buy, but we are selling players, and I think that's become a priority so far because there's more interest there. But also, I'm sure the players that Arsenal want to sign sometimes they get done later in the window because a club can change their stance, an agent can make a move, or a player might want to move a bit more dramatically and try to force a move behind the scenes. And also we have got over a month left of the window, and I think I always say whenever it's a Euros, once the Euros ends, that's when the window really opens because
Mm-hmm.
teams can go and approach players that are either on holiday or at the Euros, and they can go and make deals happen as well. So it is a bit slower, but we're used to this. Fans need to go back to summer 2021. Odegaard and Ramsdale and Co were signed post Euro 2021, so it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I mean also just from a broad perspective, like are Arsenal moving slow? I wouldn't say that major deals have happened. I think
Hmm.
things are slowly starting to get into play. I mean, you look at United basically sealing Lenny Euro for them, and then
Yep.
you start to go on in terms of some of the bigger deals, João Neves to potentially PSG. PSG
Yep.
also looking at Victor Osimhen as well. Like things are moving now. There was a period of two to
Yeah.
three weeks while everybody. It's not even just the Euros. We had a Copa. I mean, we had major tournaments
Yeah.
happen here. Back to back tournaments. So I mean, the whole idea that things have been moving for
And
everyone
Arsenal
else.
moving as well, by the way. Arsenal are making moves. It's not like we've not made offers and not trying to sign a player. We know who we're trying to sign right now. It's just trying to get that deal over the line.
Which, by the way, not to be super ITK or something, if you read between the lines, the Calafiori deal's done for me. It's a matter of ironing out details. You're talking about payment
Yeah.
structure. You're talking about accounting. And why do Arsenal feel like they are happy to do this? Because the man is on holiday. He was just at the Euros. And if tomorrow you agree a fee, he's not coming for a medical for a week anyways. He's on
No.
holidays.
No.
There's no point in doing this because he's not missing a preseason. He's not doing any of those things. And by the way, I think Bologna themselves, they get time to search for a replacement. And we're
Of
happy
course.
to keep the relationship alive. I think Calafiore is pretty much done. And you're right. I mean, we actually did several business between Sambi Lakunga and Nuno Tavares. I think the Sambi deal is not one that I'm happy with, if I'm really being fair. I think that would put that in a very average deal setting for me. The idea
Yep.
that it's an option to buy as opposed to obligation is really poor, in my opinion. But even then, we haven't made our money back. And I think Sambi is a prospect that, while I don't see for Arsenal, is not to say that he's a poor prospect. And I think he's worth more than 13 to 15 million pounds, even with the sell on clause. Now, I think maybe that's Arsenal's attempt at being creative with a lack of real true offers for somebody. So I do, on one hand, praise Garlic for showing his creativity in terms of those sell on clauses being quite high, I think 25%. But the Nuno Tavares deal is a brilliant deal.
Yeah.
£7.5 million is not something that I was expecting. And to have also a high sell on clause with him, I thought that was a great deal that we sorted. So I'm caught between two minds because both of these deals weren't deals I was going to use to benchmark Arsenal's ability to sell. That was going to be Reece,
Hmm.
Eddie, and potentially
Yeah,
Emil Smith
yeah,
Rowe, which is not happening because he would be my favorite player in the world, so he has to stay. But I mean, the Hale End boys, again, I think that would be the benchmark in terms of establishing
mm,
has Edu improved or not. These
yeah,
guys, they're fringe players. Everybody knows that Arsenal don't want them, so they're difficult sales. So whatever we do get, you're hopefully trying to break even or not. Right? But these
yeah,
are the sales, the homegrown pure profit sales that you're looking to say, okay, Reese, you've got interest from West Ham. That's a club that has spent, that is spending. So I
yeah,
don't want
yeah,
there to be a cheap deal there. Eddie, it's not just Marseille. You've got deals from Fulham looking at you. You've got Palace looking at you. Wolves. He's got Premier League interest. I'm not looking for a cheap deal there.
hmm hmm It makes a lot of sense. I think what I'm looking at right now is those big pillars we talked about. Reece Nelson, Smith Rowe, and maybe Eddie Nketiah. I expect that in the next week or two, we'll get one agreement there for sure to get that one over the line
Mm-hmm.
because it looks like either two or three of those players are leaving. And offers are coming in and teams are negotiating, which is always a good sign. I think with the one with Eddie is the whole Marseille rumors are coming and they've just spent a lot of money. I think on Mason Greenwood as well, so they're showing they have money to spend. But in terms of my ideal club for Eddie, I'd like it to be inside the Premier League because you can demand more money and more money up front. Whereas those clubs abroad in Europe, they don't have as much available straight away. So it's always a bit of a concern. Might be a loan with the obligation to buy. I even had a pod earlier with Delu Daguna. I was talking about maybe giving him a loan first to give him higher value. Trying to get some goals to get more interest next season. But I think I also understand if Wright arrives, just I'm not Arsenal get rid of him. But I will say one thing is if we let Eddie go, and with the lack of rumours regarding a striker as it stands, would you be happy without frontline options, or do you think Arsenal then going to need to sign a forward, whether it's a wide forward or even a centre forward?
I think Arsenal need a marquee forward, period.
hmm
And so,
But would you prefer that? Just out of curiosity.
like, who from which position?
Yes, and would that be a because Eddie goes? Let's just say Eddie goes, Nelson goes as well. Do you want a wide forward? We talked about Nico Williams in the past and rumours about that. Or does it have to be a centre forward? And if so, does it have to be marquee? Or is it again the player that can maybe a future star that can come into the team in the future? Or do you give young players an opportunity instead?
Um, Look, for me, I've made it really well known that I think Arsenal's biggest issues were moments. Like, look at all
Yeah.
of the quotes that Mikel has said. By the way, even in
hmm
postseason, what was the biggest thing that he felt like was missing? By the way, beyond us being smarter with refs and other those decisions, in that big interview that he had post, what was the one thing he said? Box efficiency, right? That's a clue. When you're talking about me, I've coined the term transitional inevitability, which you could boil down to moments. You're talking about the Bayern semi quarterfinal. Who do we trust in our team to sit there and create moments for us? Because that's important to me. And then I do believe I'm really open about how to do it, but I think it has to be a marquee. It has to be somebody that provides me those moments. And yeah, I mean, not to beat a dead horse, I felt that Victor Osimhen's the perfect person to slot in there because he solves quite a few of the holes that we're looking at. You're talking about moments and box efficiency. You've got one of the
Yeah.
best box movers in the world there. You're talking about aerial presence, again, 6'2", somebody that's going to facilitate in our press, not drop that aspect of our play, but then also provide us a way to go over the top of teams from a mid block. Okay, have a simple pass over the top, and boom, you're in a brilliant state there. Then you've got somebody that's going to be a target for half space crossing, going to be a target off back post, going to be a target off set pieces. He's a facilitator. He is. And, I think this front line needs somebody that's willing to be a facilitator, but also in his own way, give us a new dimension. And a Victor Osimhen is somebody that's going to move back lines deep. I'm telling you, Manchester City are not pressing up to the halfway line and further with a Victor Osimhen on the edge on the halfway line. They can't. The speed, the threat that carries in behind, they can't do that. And
hmm
Arsenal lack that in their front line. So that's a player I love. I mean, the Rafael Leao shouts and the dreams, the one issue I've got with it is I feel like there's in possession brilliance there. There's in possession superstar quality there. There isn't out of possession functionality there. It is a player that does not participate in that part of the game. And um, I think that there's an argument that people are probably yelling at their screens. Look, we're one of the best in the world at that. Can't we afford a little bit of that? I'm okay if somebody we're excellent and if you're just good, I get that. Rafael Leao and his out of possession work is just genuinely dreadful. It's not okay. It's genuinely dreadful. And um, I think that's a huge ask for a manager, by the way, that places such a massive importance on this. I mean,
Hmm.
mate, we're even talking about Emile Smith Rowe as fringe to the
Yep.
team, not because we're doubting the talent, but because we're doubting his ability to be an out of possession threat, right? That's the whole reason that we're talking about him. If it was just talent and the argument's talent, we would be talking about keeping him, but that's not the case, right? So whilst I would love a winger and I would love a wide option because I think it's actually the most cohesive thing for our squad, I don't see a winger out there that combines the out of possession willingness as well as the in possession talent to solve the box efficiency, the mid block problem, the left hand side fluidity. I see a Leao who's got the potential to do all the mid block stuff, all the left hand side fluidity issues. He's not quite an efficient box presence. That's not something that he solves. But uh,
Mm.
how does he function out of possession? I don't know. So that's where I'm at with it, where I feel that again, and it's about availability, mate. Leao's what,
Yeah. Yeah.
120 million pounds. Victor Osimhen is being peddled all around Europe for 85 million pounds. That's a deal that's there, that's available, that comes in, gives us experience. So um, I, and a presence. Like, I mean, I am looking to have a reference in the box. We have so
Yeah.
many people that
Hmm.
arrive that that needs to be key for me. And that's why I don't love
Yeah.
the Nico Williams. And maybe we can transition into that. I mean, I love the player. I love the prospect. We did a scouting on Nico Williams. Everybody knows for me, he's the best winger prospect in the world. But I don't know about you, mate. I don't think a prospect lets us beat Pep next year. And, it's the same logic I had with Sesko. I'm with you in
Yep.
the
Yep.
timeline about describing all the brilliant qualities, but am I trusting Nico Williams in the moment to be consistent over the season and provide us those moments? Not next year, maybe in 2 to 3 years. Yeah, I think he'll become that player, but does he do it next year and now? I'm not too sure.
I think right now the reason why Williams is so prominent in Arsenal fans' minds is because he's the main link in terms of forwards. And a lot of times fans are most excited about the players they actually see that we can actually go and sign, not players they want to go and sign. And I think that's why in terms of the likes of Liao and earlier fans talked about Rashford as well, there has been no link to those level of players. And so we're talking about players that Arsenal have been linked to. Nico Williams is the most prominent. We talked about Osimhen early in the window, but right now we're looking like PSG are a bigger option than Arsenal, and you've also got rumours about Saudi Arabia. I think the thing with the Arsenal fans is if we are going to sign a forward, and if it's not Nico Williams and it's not Victor Osimhen, who else do we go and sign? Because the market is scarce right now in that department. United have gone and signed Joshua Zirkzee as well, a player that some Arsenal fans like the idea of signing. So there's not many options. Even I can't sit here and tell you right now this is the player Arsenal go and need to sign. And that's why when I hear fans say Arsenal moving so slow, this is looking awful, I'm going, well, who do we go and sign? And they can't give me a name. They can't give me a clear and obvious name that is our Haaland, that is our moments player, that answers all our problems. And I know you talked about Victor Osimhen himself, but right now there are no rumours around it. There are no links behind it. There could be negotiations for all we know, but I can't make them up in my mind and go, yeah, that's gonna happen for sure. I've not got the visualization ability like you do. Maybe you know something I don't. But that's the only thing right now is a lot of fans aren't quite sure, and there's a lot of confusion around what's our priority. Because right now we're hearing Williams from more credible sources with Osimhen. I've not heard anything since maybe a Fabrizio Romano update a few months ago about Arsenal being interested but not making a move, no negotiations. I can see why fans aren't really focused on that transfer right now.
I mean, the one thing is I'll probably flip it on you. What would you like to see? Like, assuming we solve um, the middle of the park with say a
Hmm.
Moreno, whatever you want. Like, I mean, somebody can put in their favorite midfield signing, but say we have now secured a defender and a midfielder here, and
Yep.
you're left with a forward. What do you want to
Hmm.
see? Because I understand people's like pushback in terms of, well, the links say this, but mate, Arsenal aren't talking. So if you're looking to
Nope.
links to describe a plan or try to infer it, you're going to be lost. Arsenal have done an incredible job this year about being too quiet. That's why fans are getting nervous. We've done the complete opposite. So if you're going to ask me, we should only look towards links. We'd have a very boring podcast here.
Yeah. No, of course. That's the thing is, I don't think that's what we should do, but I think that's what's happening. As
Yeah.
a lot of fans are doing that naturally because they don't have the maybe the footballing IQ at times. Not they have the footballing IQ, but it's not like we have all this knowledge about this is the player we need to sign. We can go and scout a player from the Serie A that plays for a mid-table side. They go for players that are a bit more prominent, that they know about. They know of the name, they've heard about it before, and they've got a little bit more knowledge about that player. And that's why with Osimhen, look, if we got a rumor tomorrow, like a credible source saying that we made an offer, I guarantee to you the amount of excitement around the player spikes straight away. And
Yeah.
everyone starts making their threads and they start seeing compilations and they start to make the idea that this is the player for us to want to sign. I think that we've been linked to Osimhen for so long now that fans have just kind of got bored of it. The rumour's gone stale and they're not sure if the deal's going to happen, and that's why they've kind of looking for new targets. Nico Williams is a fresh name on the market. It's not a player that we've been talking about for more than a year or so. And so that's why that seems to have a bit more excitement around it. If you ask me what I want in our team, it's something that we don't have. And Osimhen's profile is a lot closer to that than a Nico Williams because Osimhen gives us the box presence that Havertz might have, but Osimhen is a slight edge higher than him. And of the age profile as well, he's also available. And we talked about the off the ball ability. You've talked about many times how he's fantastic off the ball, one of the most hardworking strikers in all of Europe. So he fits so many things. And that's why I'm a bit surprised that I've not seen rumours, I've not seen links. It could be Arsenal, playing a game and they're fooling all of us. But I can see why, for the ordinary fan, it's a bit confusing and a bit worrying because they only see what's obvious to them, and it's the rumours and the deals that are happening. And you
Look,
go and see United go and sign Euro, and I think it kind of spikes it.
look, I can't speak from Arsenal's perspective, and I won't pretend to have I don't have any knowledge of the situation. But just look at the narrative from Napoli's perspective. It went from pay the release clause to okay, maybe we'll accept things that aren't the release clause. Now it's being
Hmm.
marketed. Okay, without offers and interest, we are now even offering Victor Osimhen for far below his release clause. It's gone from what 105 million pounds release clause all in one to now 85 million pounds, and we're willing to do a deal and work with people because we really want to replace him with Lukaku. Like that's been the Napoli narrative. So I just look at Napoli's narrative. They're pushing him out, mate. And
Yeah.
the silence is lowering the fee. So if you're talking about clubs that are interested, it makes sense to me that Arsenal, if they've got three major signings as the goal, let's say, right? Calafiori is basically done. If you wanted a marquee signing, that would be your last signing. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Now, that could be midfield, it could be striker. I'm open to either suggestion, but the midfield seems very unlikely. And one of the very few remaining midfield talents that I would say is a marquee is João Neves, and that's got actually the strongest links with PSG. I think there's a lot stronger links there. So my just me understanding the situation, I'm saying, okay, if midfield's going to be a signing like a Moreno, that's more budget, then you're basically indirectly saying the forward could be your marquee. And
Yeah.
how many
Yeah.
forward marquees are on the market and available?
Hmm.
There's only one.
Yeah.
And there's only one that fits. There's only one that you could even say in world football fits a team like Arsenal more. And that's where my mind goes. Whether it'll happen or not, who knows? And, I've been asked a lot online, look, if none of this happens, if Nico Williams doesn't happen, if Leao doesn't
That's what I'm
happen, if
saying.
Osimhen doesn't happen, if Leao doesn't happen, Rashford, all these names don't happen, what would you do? Um, I would be asking some serious questions of Edu and the team. I would look to solve things in a different way. If I can't get the marquee attacker that I need, then I would look to solve marquee in other areas. And I am talking Alfonso Davies at left back, for example. It doesn't have to be the position, but if we're talking final third and we're talking fixing something, I want to fix a guarantee. And for me, Alfonso
Hmm.
Davies guarantees a left back solution. Calafiori, we can work in. He's a raw prospect, but the last signing that is outside a midfielder and a defender that we've got, it has to be a marquee and it has to solve a problem.
Hmm.
That's the only
Yeah.
thing I'm convinced of. So, so yeah, that would be my suggestion. And if we have some money left over, I would probably have a look around the market in terms of maybe what a Kareem Adeyemi from Dortmund are looking like. I like that player. I've liked it for a while. Don't think that he solves everything. I'd have a look at Rafinha at Barca. I would in that situation, especially if I've got like an Alfonso Davies and I've got basically an option in lane five on the left. I would look towards an option on lane five on the right, um,
Hmm.
and and I would basically be okay with going with our striker options if a striker isn't on the market like Osimhen.
Yeah.
You know, if you're
Yeah.
telling me you
Yeah.
can't get Osimhen, George, okay, then I'm willing to build the wings, and I'm willing
Yeah.
to build the wings so that there's no redundancy. That would be
Yeah.
my solution to it.
No, I totally agree. I think a lot of our window needs to be about things that we don't really have. And on Alfonso Davies with the pace and the overlap and that type of profile, we don't have. And that's why it's something that can add to next season and give us something to take us over the line. And that's why Osimhen's name, it makes so much sense. And that's why, if Arsenal are playing some 4D chess, and I hope to hear it very soon, we'll see about that. But as much as we're, talking about incomings, we have to talk about the outgoings because in the last week, I'd say more than ever, we've seen so many more reports coming out, credible reports about players on the move going out.
Do you
Nelson
think
potentially
Emil
over the move
goes?
to West
Just to
Ham.
cut through. Do you think
I,
Emil
f-
goes? Like who of the ones rumored?
I w-
Eddie, Reese, Emil.
yeah,
Do you think
I
all
think
three go?
the one that stands out, I think two of them definitely go. Which two? I think will be Nelson and it's Nelson and Eddie. I think they have the
Yeah.
teams that have the most interest, and also the players that had the least amount of minutes last year. I think Eddie had some starts at the start of the year, but past that, I really think in the second half of the year he was really underused, and Mikel rarely turned him whatsoever. And so with the age profile he's at, I think he wants to go. With the Mill, I think he really wants things to work out at Arsenal because he can still see himself in that first team. He can still see himself offering something that we don't have. The only thing is, I feel like he's also going to have the highest level of interest because look, if you're a Fulham signing a Will
Mhm.
Smith Rowe, can you imagine the level of excitement in that fan base? The fact that he would become a superstar at that club straight away, and other clubs like that as well. And I feel like because of that, I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal said, "Look, we don't want to sell this player, but if you could offer us some more money that we can't reject, that he does go." And I think that's possible as well because look, Mills a talent that if he goes to the likes of Fulham, he starts straight away and he could establish himself straight away. And also, look, he would have been seeing the England teams and the lineups and all that type of stuff, and thinking, "Look, I can make that squad." But at Arsenal, because he's not a guaranteed starter straight away, we don't know next year. And I'm not sure Mikel will give him a guarantee regardless of that. I feel like for him, maybe it's the best time to go and make that move.
It's a difficult one with Emil because I just see a huge hole in the squad. And we just spent the last, 15, 20 minutes talking about how the next buys need to be guarantees and fix a hole. Um, I'm not wedded to a particular player. I love Emil, but if I get an opportunity, I would look to upgrade there. The
Mm-hmm.
problem is I don't see very many upgrades that aren't a Jamal Musiala or something like that are able to come in and really offer that
Secret German
improvement.
signing.
Well, I mean that could be the secret German signing. You never know. But
Could be
I
legend.
mean, um, look, the thing is, mate. Here, I actually want to ask you this question. Maybe we could end on this as a little segment. A lot of people have been talking about selling Emil Smith Rowe to buy Ebriche Eze from Palace. Okay, um, I'm interested to know your thoughts about Ebriche Eze because while I think he's a brilliant player, I don't share a lot of the timeline's conviction that he walks in and
Mm-hmm.
solves our biggest problems.
Yeah, look, I definitely think there's a level of aesthetic bias for sure. In the sense that he's very skillful, and when fans see that straight away, they go, "Okay, look, he's a fantastic player." Foden gets all the time, but I think in terms of Eze's ability to carry the ball and dribbles, in terms of per 90, he is a very high standard. And Mill's got the ability, but in terms of what we've seen him on the ball, in terms of dribbling, I don't think he's as good as Eze, and that's why I think fans go, "Look, he's not quite Musiala level in terms of Eze, but he is closer to that than what Emil Smith Rowe is. Smith Rowe is more of a 1-2 type of player. He can combine and make things happen and knit things together. But him getting the ball, driving past three players and going and scoring a goal, we've not seen. With Eze last year's numbers again were fantastic, and look, I think a lot of it is maybe, and it definitely is the whole shiny new toy syndrome. We see a new toy there. We go, look, he can offer us something that we don't really have. He's a former Hale End player as well. There's a storyline there. He's got Premier League experience. He is available as well. I think it's an exciting name there and there. But look, do I think Eze would be an upgrade on Will Smith Rowe? I think so. I think so. I think in terms of authority with the ball, in terms of making things happen, in terms of in the Champions League offering us a moment of magic, out of Smith Rowe and Eze, I think Eze is more likely to offer that than Emil Smith Rowe of 2024. Because I feel like in the last 2 years, whether it's a lack of consistent starts and first team minutes, I haven't seen authority from Emil Smith Rowe to say like he demands to be in this team. He demands to, find a way to break into that squad. Whereas the likes of Eze, if you go and sign him for that level of money, I have to see him start. I have to see him in the team, and maybe not straight away, but involved in the squad. So I'm in the camp that if we can sign Eze and sell Smith Rowe for it for sure. But I'd agree with your point of view as well. Is he an off the ball upgrade? Does he offer us that? In that Smith Rowe offers, but for me, it's about on the ball. For me, it's
Where
about
does he
offering something that we
play?
don't have.
Where does he play for you?
Look, he can play in many positions. You can play in left forward. You can play him in left number 8 as well. I think if he was to play or play inside in that channel, I think he'd play the role Smith Rowe's meant to play. but I don't think Emil's ever taken that role properly, but by the scruff of his neck, with the authority to go, look, I demand to play in this team in that specific area. But look, I also think we're not going to sign Eze in the first place. I think the likes of Moreno is a more likely option, and I think then past that, if you've got Calafiori done, you've got the likes of Merino or someone like that, then there'll be a wide forward or a striker over maybe an Eze. But I think the idea of letting Smith Rowe go, would you, as yourself, would you want a direct replacement straight away? And if it's not Eze, is it someone else?
It has to be, mate. Like you're creating a hole. Like, okay, the reason that you sell is not just for value, but you sell because you've not used the asset and you want to
Yeah,
reinvest that asset into something that you use more, right? Like that's the basis of selling here. And if you're going to look at the squad and you're saying holes, okay, I don't mind selling Smith Rowe, especially if we're talking. But my ambition, mate, is not to sell Smith Rowe for Eberechi Eze. It's to sell him for Jamal Musiala, for
makes
Florian
sense.
Wirtz. It's to sell him to truly
Super German
upgrade.
signing.
Well, there you go. I named you a couple too. But so that's why, like, while I love Smith Rowe, I'm looking to find profiles that give me that, but with a little bit more marquee, with a little bit more true claim of being a starting 11 player. I would argue Abrisha Eze, again, he's a very good player, but when you talked about him in multiple different positions, I mean, he's very much Trossard in the sense that he's a half space player that needs to be close to goal.
Hmm.
If you're going to play him out wide, left wing, he needs an overlap.
Yep.
And, we don't have an overlap. And we don't have one that we trust, rather. Um, so then if you put him inside, I mean, there's going to be questions in terms of him in the press, in terms of his out of possession work, in terms of his duels, which are not of the standard. It's why Emil doesn't get in. I mean, people talk about how Emil doesn't have authority on the ball or whatnot, but he doesn't get selected because of his out of possession work. I do think Emil, with 5 games knitted together, shows you the personality that Eberechi Eze does. It wasn't long when Jamie Carragher was calling him one of his favorite carriers
Yeah.
with the ball at his feet. Let's not doubt, because we haven't seen it, people, I think, forget. The skill is there. It has no problem. But again, my only pushback is I tell people, for as much as he's a brilliant dribbler, does he solve the out of possession work? Because if he doesn't, Mikel won't select him.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
That's correct.
so is he a left central mid in an Arteta system? I don't think so. So that's where I
Yeah.
start to get a little bit, hesitant. And so to answer your question, would I sell Emil? I would sell Emil tomorrow if you told me there's a realistic shot of Arsenal getting a Jamal Musiala type. Doesn't have to
Mm.
be him. I'm talking about a João Neves even. I'm talking about a true marquee player
High
that you
caliber
can
signing.
invest and see improve the starting 11. Because for me, Emil, you reinvest those funds right now because we have depth. We have depth in midfield. We actually have as many profiles as you want on paper. We haven't even talked about Miles Lewis Skelly and Ethan Winery, who are two that have
Nope.
absolutely got their tickets to the plane. Um, I think we need to start to look at making sure that the midfield, it's not light. It's not light in profiles or numbers. It's light in quality. So if you're
Hmm.
selling me somebody, then give me quality. Don't give me somebody that's marginally improvement. And I could even be with you in terms of in the moment, Eze is an improvement on Emil Smith Rowe. But why am I selling to have a little bit of an improvement? You look at Calafiore, he's not just a slight improvement on Kivior. He has the potential to outlast Gabriel in the 11. Like that's why we made that decision. We didn't just buy him to be an immediate Kivior improvement. We bought him because we believe he's got the potential to rival Gabriel in the starting 11, and he's got starting 11 quality. So
Hmm.
that's kind of my retort because I looked at Kivior as like a squad depth option. Right now, Emil
Yeah.
is a squad depth option. But how did you replace the Kivior? You got to do the same with Emil. And unfortunately,
Yeah.
mate, those are 75 million pound plus players. They're big
Hmm.
players.
Hmm.
Emil's
Yeah.
going for what, 35? Arsenal want 40? That's
Yeah.
not a small number.
That's one of my major concerns, though, is we do let Emil go and we don't get a direct replacement because Eze is being a player that fans want to see signed, but apart from maybe one or two links here and there, nothing's prominent, and that's why I think maybe more to Spurs side of it more than anything. And unless we go and sign a Musiala or a Verts type of player, I don't think there's a. We can't go and sign another Emil, right? In terms of a similar caliber of player at this stage, because that's what it's going to cost. You go and sign that. Maybe a prospect, maybe Mikel trust the likes of Miles or Ethan to play in that role in the long
Haven't
term
even spoke
future.
about Yuri and Timber just to whet
Yuri and Timber, yeah, we
the
spoke about
watcher's
you know
appetite.
it's potential as well. You know, it's potential there for sure. But I want to quickly ask you though, in terms of just transfers in general and big ones that are happening. There is one that's happened today that's kind of taken the headlines, and I think I'm going to talk about. Manchester United have made a good move in my eyes, at least, but quite expensive, 70 million euros potentially for Euro of Lille.
Yeah.
Is that a signing? Do you think? And just the way United have been moving this market, do you see them as long-term competitors? Because Joshua Zirkzee, Euro, more younger profiles than normal, going for the players that can maybe boast over the future as well. They've sorted the backroom staff out as well. It's a new era, Sir Jim Radcliffe as well. Do you see United as like long-term Arsenal contenders for sure?
Definitely. I think that those are very elite pieces of business. You can't
Mm-hmm.
be salty. Lenny Euro is one of the best center back prospects in the world. So signing him is a very smart move for a rebuild that you're not expected to compete right now. I think half of it is because people look at Manchester United right now in terms of seeing the work that they do and also Eric Ten Hag being there. But can I ask you something? Xerxes, Lenny Euro. I'm going to replace Ten Hag with
Yeah, that's
Julian
the key
Nagelsmann.
part.
Does that
Yeah.
start to worry you as an Arsenal fan?
Yeah. No, of course it doesn't. The reason why I was saying is because I was speaking to my younger brother earlier, who's a Man United fan,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Oh, we've got Euro, we've got Zex." I'm like, "Look, great signings, but as long as you've got Ten Hag as manager, I'm not worried." And I
Yes.
think for a while that will be the case, but when they do let him go and they do part ways, unless they go and get Gareth Southgate, they will be a threat for sure.
And I think Xerxes is an incredibly smart signing, mate. Like Rashford will have a 30 goal assist season next year because of Joshua Xerxes. And
Does he start with Hoyland?
I think that they could start together personally.
Okay.
There's definitely an opportunity for him in the 10 because Xerxes prefers the left half space. So he drops in a little bit, and you've still got a runner in Hoyland if you really wanted to play that way. The problem is you need an anchor here.
Yeah.
Alternatively, Xerxes could be a false nine, and then they get maybe an outlet right winger, and then you could pair Rashford with another. Them trying to emulate the Liverpool Mane Salah Firmino model in terms of having two runners on the outside and Xerxes use a false nine. That's an option for them. No, I just think he's a brilliant piece of business, mate. Like it was 40 million euros. Everybody's clowning United because it's smart business. Now, I'm going to say the same thing that I said with Ben White when we paid 50 million pounds for Ben White at Brighton. We were convinced on the talent. I think Ben White was a better decision at the time because you had at least a sample. Lending Euro is a risk. It's as sure of a risk as you can take, but it's still a risk. He's still 18, still hasn't provided you with enough top five sample to really see how far will that development go. People don't develop at the right time. You've paid him money that he better
Hmm.
develop and he better deliver. And that's the pressure. And how does he deal with it? But if you're asking me in 4 years, are we going to say that he was worth 70 million euros? Yeah, easily. I think that
Yeah.
he will be
Yeah.
worth that.
It looks like a very smart United signing, which is very rare of me to say. And to be fair, we
Very.
have to play United very soon. I will be there in America. I'm going to LA to watch Man United versus Arsenal, and we'll see how that works out. Because as you remember last year, was it Ten Hag said it, or was it someone else who said United don't play friendlies? We'll see how how they are this time. And because obviously in terms of Arsenal this year, we've got no signings over the line so far, and I highly doubt that Califury will be able to travel to USA anyways. Just in terms of the likes of Jorginho returning now and other players like that, and obviously Saka and Rice and Ramsdale far away. How do you think that affects the start of the season? Because we're not used to it. Our players getting far into tournaments, and so now it's a new problem for Mikel to deal with.
Look, it's never ideal. Like once you have a chopped up preseason, ideally you want everybody back at some time to work through your motion. The one thing I'll say is that Arsenal and Mikel's work in the last 2 years building a system means that Declan could pop tomorrow or a day before Wolves and know exactly where to stand in this Mikel Arteta system. He's played for it, same as Saka. So I mean, I think we even have an opportunity to wait for them to build fitness, which is brilliant when we're in this position, having been at this point in our rebuild. I actually don't think that preseason, maybe controversial opinion, while everybody is returning late, from a fitness perspective, I don't think Arsenal are going to be as impacted as others because we've got a system that we know well, that we've trained well, that we've
Hmm.
done for over 2 years now. So, in terms of learning, there's nothing that these players that are coming back need to necessarily learn to improve. There's just small tweaks, and I don't think that'll take too long. So, definitely opportunity though for everybody to start slowly, just from a fitness perspective. But Arsenal won't be the only ones. I mean, there's going to, I
No,
think all
no.
top six sides are, who have had a lot of internationals will start slowly. Like your number of internationals will affect how slow that you're able to start. It's just like you said, I don't know if Arsenal have the ability to wait that long. We have a very tough start to the season. I think everybody needs to come back and we need to be raring to go. So there's going to be a demand from Arsenal fans, and rightly so, that we're ready. And so in that sense, I'm pretty confident that we will be. But we can't let ourselves kind of, I don't know, be in a fantasy land in terms of understanding. Look, there's a big demand to start strong. We've got players coming back late. We've got to allow
Yeah.
them time to get up to fitness.
Mm.
I just hope we see a really experienced shuffling of the squad,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
what my biggest fear is rushing these players back because we say how stacked the front end of the season is, and then they get injured and we're not able to maximize
Hmm.
on the games that we should be maximizing on. So, um,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm not worried, but I'm excited. I'm
It's going to
excited to
be
see
intriguing.
the
Yeah.
evolution.
It's a new
Yeah,
test.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a new test for Mikel and how he manages the squad, and we'll see how it goes. First, we've got the tour of the USA. I believe we played Bournemouth first before
yeah.
everyone else, and then we've got games against United and Liverpool, which should be intriguing. So we'll see how that goes. But it has been a fantastic podcast. And George, you know what? You can do the outro because you do it better than I do.
Well, guys, thank you so much for sticking with us. Again, sorry for putting out the pod late. It was just a little bit difficult with logistics, but thank you so much for all your support and for everybody for sticking around, for watching until the end. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. You hit that bell for notifications to know when, in fact, we do upload. And if you do like a lot of the content that you can see, you can kind of click on the link below for the patron. We'd love to see you. There's a 7-day free trial. You can check it out. And if you don't like it, you can, leave after that. But we thank everybody for your support, and we will catch you guys soon with some more content this week. So thank you so much, and thanks for keeping it Arsenal. Peace.
Peace.